Do you fish? No. You know, people who don't fish think that fishing is lazy or boring, but it is the complete opposite. There are 100 little decisions to be made, variables to be considered, and you're never quite sure what made the difference. Did I cast too high, too far to the left? Did I reel it in too slow or too fast? Is the lure too shiny or too dull? Do I stay here or should I go over there? And you know it's not luck, but you do not know by how much. Because I am never disappointed out here, because I don't expect anything, because anything is possible. I can be hopeful out here, even in failure. Because I know if I just go out there around that tree, it might be different. Something might be different. Something I do might make a difference.
A sniper's dream, 100 nights of memory. He has me forehead, and after head, goes grace vertical. No matter who he races, he gonna have a head start. Frontal globe, remembers what happened to Mom. His father stands on the second floor. Why can you still see his forehead with the comments open? Shut his eyes. He got a lot on his mind. He's been told to hold that thought all his life. Bro sweat tries before it reaches his eyes. He needs brains. Those imaginations in 4K Ultra HD. If you do an inch on his forehead, Bobby will survive. His forehead says 6'5", but his eyes say 5'9". The most epic heroic song of all time. Bro's forehead has a national anthem. Bro knew this would happen.
Hell yeah! Angler's choice, baby! John Moore's, White River, Ranger, Triton, Nitro! Let's go, baby! Woo!
What the hell is even that?
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Monday Night Live. We are here. It is March 17th. I can't believe we're almost halfway through the month. I mean, we are halfway through the month here. Bassmaster Classic is getting going. Spring is in the air. I feel like more and more of the country is actually getting out of the deep thaw. It's insane to also look at the weights at Kerr. Like, it actually didn't suck that bad this weekend. So with that lake, I'm going to keep tabs on it to see if the name is not Tyler Trent at the top of the leaderboard, if that thing continues to be on the uptick. But we're going to be talking about probably the best lake in the great state of Virginia with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Billy Coles. How are you doing, boss?
Did you just compliment Bugs Island?
I had to give it a little bit because I immediately got shit on when the BFL happened there. Was it 2 weeks ago? And they're like, oh, what do you think of these weights here? It's like, yeah, congratulations. You're in the big leagues now.
Cool. Yeah, it happened for one day.
Yeah, exactly. But
I didn't see this past weekend. Was it decent?
Yeah, it was over 19 pounds for a local derby to win. So it's like, all right. But the biggest thing to me, it's like top 10, it was above 11, which for that place is a big deal.
Yeah, it's 2 pounds more than it should be. Woo-hoo.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't talk too much, dude. The Anglers was actually it was a pretty big grinder here too. So
what's a Smith Mountain Lake grinder like?
16 pounds and fish swimming away from your bait half the day.
Good God.
Yeah. So it was pretty tough, but I think there's something. So I'm starting to see a big pattern in my notes that these F1s really don't care for like cloud cover, low pressure, wind. Like, dude, they're biting best when it's slick, calm, hot, like warming trend type situation. Like Thursday for practice for the anglers, we're still behind on water temperature quite a bit for March, 15, 16, 17. But dude, I had over 20 mag draft bites on Thursday. I didn't have a hook on, but I was pulling like 8 to 10 bass out from under dock. Some of them were like 6-7 pounders. Slick calm, 2:00 in the afternoon, like not swim bait conditions, and just getting throttled. And then you go there on the tournament day and they're just not even there. So it's been an interesting, I took most of January off, so I don't really have a huge kind of like input for that early winter stuff, but the late winter bite's been super roller coaster.
One thing we talked about water temperatures a lot last year this time, and we had a relatively warm winter a year
Mhm.
ago. This
Yep.
year, the damn Susquehanna River and the Upper Potomac froze solid.
Sure.
So, uh, compare and contrast, and really what you're seeing this year compared to last year.
Um, yeah, so I was gone most of January, but dude, I mean, I keep tabs when I'm gone, and there was sections way up the rivers that were freezing. Back pockets that had a little sheet of ice on them and stuff like that. I'm still seeing, like this morning on my guide trip, 46 at the ramp
Damn.
on my Garmin. So add 2 degrees, that's 48.
Mm.
Like it's March. It's the middle of March. Like the next full moon, they should be pushing up pretty hard. And I don't think they're going to have a choice at a certain point to it. But we have another decently cold week. Like we're talking a couple of the nights this week are in the 30s. So I don't think we're going to see, 55 degrees or anything like that crazy by the end of the week. It's supposed to be breezy most of the week as well. And that doesn't help the water temperatures rise up. So 2 weeks from now for the BFL, I don't think we're going to see 58. I don't think we're going to see any sort of like number like that. We're probably going to be low 50s, mid 50s, which again, they have to come up at some point. And I think the BFL could be pretty good for everybody. And then the other side to it too is I don't know what is going on with AEP or like drawing and pumping back, but the water is super dirty still. From whatever flood that was. I was in Texas for like 4 days. We got back the day after Valentine's Day. And I don't know what rain it was, but basically, I don't run up the river that much anyways, but from people I talk to, basically Beaver Dam to below the bridge is still like Yoo-hoo chocolate milk from a month ago, which is very odd. That's the first time I've ever seen it like that. And then above Gills, once you get up kind of past the S turn at Gills, it's still brown. So there's a lot of green water, which is super, super good. And the lower end's like kind of stained, but, that might help with the bite a little bit too. And then the other thing, when I got home, which was after all the super cold snaps, the amount of shad kill we had this year at Smith Mountain was unbelievably impressive. Which I do think is going to make the entire year of fishing really, really good at Smith Mountain because they're just not going to have what they've had the last 2 winters as far as the food source to chew on. So like, I'm sure everyone's going to love to hear this. I think the mag draft bite's probably going to be stupid. Bigger swim baits is probably going to be stupid. Jerk bait bite, A-rig bite, like all the, really staple kind of spring things, hopefully, are going to pop off because there's just not that much shad. I mean, there was thousands of seagulls at the lake for a month, tons of loons. I saw otters swimming around, like pretty much anything that could eat shad was out every single day, just kind of eating stuff. So we'll see what it does. It's been super roller coaster for me specifically. It's minnow fishing, honestly, like to the max, to the point where it honestly makes you want to blow your brains out. Being out on the water that often and only getting bites on the minnow. There's some weird kind of jerk bait stuff going on. It's like every couple days they're kind of interested enough where you can, get them on the back hook. A-rig bite was good for a little bit and that kind of tapered off. The mag draft bite, like that's I think I had one mag draft bite before that practice day. And then I was like, okay, well, it's going to pop off like crazy. And then nothing happens. So it's been a pretty interesting late winter pattern so far, but I think if we can get 4 days of slick, calm, and hot, I think they're gonna have to push no matter what. So
We talked about last year with when you have a really warm winter, it makes it a little bit unique when you talk about the very defined pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn, early pre-spawn, mid pre-spawn, all that, because it seems like it blends together a little bit. This year, do you think it's going to be a lot more hard set of, like you said, when it's spawn, it's a wave and they all go?
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's giant ones on the break line. There's giant fish in 12 to 25 feet just floating around all day long. They're super, super skittish. I'm talking, we're making 100-foot casts, and on an 1/8 ounce head, if they hear it enough, they're going straight to the bottom.
Wow.
Like right away. They have no interest in looking up. They're going straight to the bottom. So I'm at 120 on live scope. And I mean, I'm yeeting eighth ounce as far as I can to just try to stay super far away, not touching the trolling motor at all. Everything besides the live scopes disabled as far as pings go. We're not trying to like bang live well lids or make heavy steps or talk that much. So it's definitely kind of like that. And then again, this is where Smith Mountain's just notorious for it. You go out the next day and you toss it at them at 30 feet and they gag on it. But for whatever reason, they are really, really stuck in that suspended off the brake line type of pattern. So what I think is going to happen is the first 2 days of a warming trend, you're going to have a ton of buck bass up on the bank, Senko, shaky head, Ned, drop shot, all that sort of stuff. And I don't think it's going to take that long for the females to come off that brake line and be back in there. But to give you guys a prime example, yes, the Anglers tournament was this weekend, but it blew 15 miles an hour sustained from the northwest, like perfect conditions to power fish. And we went and threw crankbaits for an hour and a half this morning and never got a bite. So it's just not there yet, which is just crazy to think that we're on our third month of the minnow bite.
We got Larry Cron and Instagram. Guys, again, best questions are going to gift card to Jake's Bait and Tackle, and I'll open up the phone lines in a little bit too to do some call-in. He asks, why do bass suspend over break lines like that? What conditions? Question mark. So to formulate that a little bit better, just for people that are going to be listening in the future, he's asking, why do fish and in what conditions do they want to suspend over the break lines?
Yep. So late winter and midwinter, they're glued to the bottom usually. It's warmer down there. The water has flipped. Like there's too much fluctuation at the top, say 10 feet of the water column. So they just stick closer to the bottom, down in the bottom, say 25%. As soon as we get a warming trend, which we had like 3 weeks ago, where it was in the 70s for like 3 days, the bait shoots to the top and the bait is going to suspend up in that higher water column for basically now until they're going to spawn. So every day what you see is the bait will be in like 15 feet in the morning. By the time the sun's up over the mountain here and there's a little bit of that sun glare on the water, the bait is like 5 feet under the surface. And so all those fish are doing is coming up to eat the bait. And then also same thing that the shad are doing, the bass are coming up to warm up their body temperature to get ready to spawn. So they're full of eggs. They're just biologically trying to warm themselves up. So they come out of the deeper suspending water and they're coming up. That's why you see a lot of these guys that are doing minnow fishing or a rig or like a small, like a spark shad or something. You're throwing it really high in the water column over super deep transitional break lines. So your boat might be in 60 feet, but you're casting at a fish that's 7 feet deep. And that's just how they're setting up every day. And every single morning they're deeper and then they come back up. It's every single day. And so all we're waiting for is when that surface temperature hits, say like 50, 52, they'll be comfortable enough to get out of that deep water where they need to go up and down. And all of the water up, say 0 to 7 feet is in the 50s. And then they're more comfortable up there. And you can kind of see that like periodically through the years. I know the water temperature dropped a little bit, but if you pull up like the SML Plus app, we have 2 gauges that are right next to each other. So it's a little bit weird today, but Marina 66, which is where the bridge is at 3 feet deep, it's 48.56. At 20 feet deep, it's 49.28. When we have a warming trend of say like 3 days, 3 feet deep will be like 2.5 degrees warmer than 20 feet deep. And that's how you know that you can go out there and start focusing on that like 10-foot range, pretty much anywhere in the lake, because there's that much fluctuation between 20 feet and 3.
Does barometric pressure do anything to them? Does it force them off the bottom or down to the bottom?
Yeah, but dude, the more and more you're out there with live scope and stuff, honestly, none of this shit makes sense anymore. So yes, but again, this is where I'm just scratching my head all the time and just talking to buddies in the form of like, why am I catching good numbers and size when the fishing conditions are trash by the textbook? And I cannot explain it, but the last 2 seasons out at Smith, and I'm sure it has to do with bluebacks. I'm sure it has to do with F1s. They're just not setting up like a textbook bass would be setting up on, say, like a rock vein. Like, dude, it's blowing my mind that I can take a crankbait right now and cast it into 6 feet and drag it down a 20-foot long rock on a full moon in 50-degree windy water that's stained and get a 2-pounder to bite it. I cannot catch. I haven't had a crankbait bite in 3 weeks. And you and I've talked about this before. I love throwing a crankbait. It's probably one of my favorite ways to fish, and it's just they're not there yet. So can't explain it. It's annoying.
Is this becoming, do you think, in 10 years, a pure blueback lake?
Did you say 10 years?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a buffer of 10 years.
I'll be retired. No, I honestly, dude, the pace that it's going, I'll be interested to see, going back to my point of how much shad died, because most of those are thread fins, not bluebacks, is how that affects if the fish are close to shore or offshore, come like shad spawn time, or how much are they on the red clay versus on the rocks. I think Smith Mountain is turning into like a Hartwell type situation where you're only getting to fish really shallow for a couple months in the spring, month and a half, a little bit of the shad spawn in the morning, some bluegill leaders in like July and August, and maybe a month and a half in the fall. And the rest of the time you're way off the bank. So
That's depressing.
I mean, there's 5 to 10 pounders in here, so it's not that depressing.
Yeah,
it would be depressing if we had spots in here and we were chasing 14.5-inch fish. But I just think it's gonna. I mean, you can see it in the weights. You can see it in who's winning and stuff like that. Like, I don't know the kid that won, but he won a cat and he came in and won the anglers. Dude, he's never been to Smith Mountain. He's from Norman. He's fishing. He's minnow fishing in ditches. Maybe he had a bite on some, one other type of bait or something like that. But he's showing up, using his electronics, using his topography, and he's getting 2 or 3 good bites and filling out a good limit. And that's just the type of fishing that it's been for months. So hopefully that is about to change in the next couple of days here. So
are you surprised at all that 10 pounders are now coming out like they are? It's so weird that we've been talking about it, and all of a sudden it's like the glass broke.
Yep. I kind of said that to you. Remember one of our first podcasts? I was like, dude, we're 3 to 5 years away. Dude, I think we're 2 to 5 years away where it happens almost every month. Because not only are you talking about 10s, like there's plenty of 8s and 9s. Like I just saw a dude that posted on like a fun fishing day from yesterday, where he had like his PB was like an 8.8. I mean, dude, that fish is 2 years away from being close to 10 pounds. And then you had one of the Ward boys caught a 10. I tell you this all the time. I'd see striper guides at the gas station all year long, not just in like prime conditions of pulling live shad. I see 10 pounders and 12 pounders from toothless striper dudes that are smoking 3 cigarettes at the gas station that are like, look at this bass I caught in 80 feet on a gizzard. And it's like a 14 pounder, dude. So I think it's going to be pretty regular. I don't think June, July, August per se, and probably not September, but do I think somebody could catch a close to 10 during the shad spawn? Probably. Especially if you're night fishing. And then wintertime and stuff, I suspect we're going to see 8 to 11s pretty much November through March from here on out.
I wonder also, because you say Hartwell, and this place really reminds me more like Lake Murray without the spotted bass. And as people start to dial in on that, and I think that's part of it too. It's not just that there's more of them, but people are starting to wise up to like they're offshore. They aren't just in the rock veins of the docks. They're chasing blueback. And I think the big bass event will be interesting to see some legit Carolina pros go out there. And if they get on a blueback deal type of bite offshore, what they can do to them. How many guys in your local tournaments do you think understand blueback and pelagic fish? Do you think it's all of them, like the top 5% that are actually doing it that way?
I think probably the top like 25%, 30%, like understand blueback movement, the treetop deal, like, the tight contour lines along clay points. I think some of these guys that are on repeat have figured out a specific bait that's allowing them to kind of catch more. One thing, I took minnow fishing pretty serious last year, and I was on a good run of minnow fish last year. Is I'm starting to play around with like different baits and bigger baits. Like I'm throwing 7-inch baits sometimes on a Damiki. And that seems to be kind of, breaking it down. Like there's a lot more to minnow fishing and stuff like that than just like, hey, grab a gulp minnow or grab a mooch minnow and just put it on an 1/8 ounce head and go. Like there's a lot more nuance to it. And I think those guys that are on repeat have probably figured out a line deal, a color, a scent, a size, something ahead of everybody else. But I don't think it's something that, other dudes aren't going to figure out. But it's definitely turned into more than just like, hey, just go throw this one type of minnow. I can see it on some days, man. I mean, the instant you switch from a 3-inch minnow to a 4-inch minnow and we laugh like, oh, that wouldn't make a difference. Some days it makes all the difference where all of a sudden they're not running away from it and they're gulping it up. As opposed to if you just stick the one minnow in your hand and kind of do it. So no, I think some guys are getting on it. Mentally. It's hard. Especially for example, like red clay, it looks like not a single thing of life would be up on long red clay points. And there's giants. And that's just part of the blueback deal is, you just got to know that that's something that bluebacks do and just kind of go and do it. And kind of see if they're there, if they're not setting up, we're going to run into a lot of that stuff. Last year, there was 2 guys that just smoked everybody in May, and I know I'm decent enough where I trust what they say. They're like, dude, we're posting up on a point and we're not leaving the point for 3 hours. And the fish are coming up 5 times, but every single time they come up, they're 7-pounders. Mm-hmm. And like, that's the type of stuff where I think not a lot of dudes have the mental toughness to kind of do that. I don't have the toughness to do that. I could not do that. But that's blueback stuff. I mean, you see it in the tournament trails all the time. Like dudes just power pole down or raptor down and they're on an edge and they sit there for 8 hours. Didn't Michael Neal win on Hartwell or something where he did not leave a spot for 8 hours?
I think it was Murray. I think it was.
Yeah, but it was total blueback spotted stuff. Like he literally did not leave a single spot for 8 hours. Like blow my brains out. That's just a lot.
Does this make the lake fish smaller or bigger?
Well, so this is where this year's weird, right? And I would say this to anybody that's listening to this that's coming down for the BFLs. Of course, you got to check the whole lake, but nobody's really fishing above the bridge right now, which is super odd. I mean, I've lived here. This is my, I don't know, 5th year living here, I think 5th or 6th year. By this time on all my photos and all my fishing notes, I'm fishing up the rivers, throwing a spinnerbait, a jig, and like doing really basic stuff. The lake's fishing really small right now because there's nothing up there that you can really do. Even like the A-rig guys that I know are like, dude, they're not even hitting them in the face with live scope and an A-rig up in the mud ain't working. So, for any of the guys that are coming down, you probably just got to go check it. But if it doesn't clear up, I'll be interested to see how tight a 2-day BFL feels at a lake that's got 30% of it is mud water in the low 50s. So
happy thoughts.
I am a happy person. Hey, I am a happy person, by the way, everyone.
And then, guys, as always, link in the episode description, everything we're talking about. Go get a guided trip with Billy while he's still here before he retires in 4 or 5 years or whatever he just said. Go out with one of the
and give me the buffer.
We got SB SB on Instagram says, I threw a crankbait more in 2 days of practice than I have in the past 2 years. Never got a bite. It looks so right. Yep. Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's depressing. It really
what
is.
What did SB end up having? I didn't even see.
Matt, if you're still on Instagram, what did you get? Let us know.
I guess I could pull it up.
I mean, yeah, we do have the technology. And then let's see. We do have one question here, guys. Once he Googles that. Oh, here he is. Thank you for switching over to YouTube.
Nice, yeah. Oh. Everybody was like, I mean, obviously there was a couple good bags, but it definitely was that like 16-pound catch 1 or 2 good one, fill it out with dink kind of days. but again, looking on textbook stuff, it looked like it was going to be, it looks like it was going to be, a big weight kind of day, but doesn't work that way, my friend. Not every time.
Will the glide bait might be playing, you think, during the BFL? That's for you, Maddie.
I would say, yeah. We're probably gonna turn the corner where there's gonna be some glide fish to be caught. There are some fish around docks that I would toss on, and you can throw a glide at those big floater fish. It's harder to get them to commit to something that big still this cold, in my opinion. But I think we're right around the corner where I could see some BFL stuff. A glide probably getting some bites. So.
And then we do have a question, guys. We're going to get to that minnow setup question in a minute. That'll be the last question we do before I open up the phone lines. The question I had was, are underspins just falling out of favor because of the minnow setup? Because
dude, I just threw away like a bunch of minnow heads, like guppy heads that kind of got a little bit rut. Like I'm doing my like reorganization of guiding stuff. And I just threw away, I don't know, like 30 guppy heads that just kind of got gross or whatever. But I literally stared at the underspins and I was like, I haven't thrown these in like 3 years. Like, what are these doing in here besides weighing? And, I try to carry, I probably carry way too much stuff just because I don't want to have to like reload every night. So I don't know, there's probably 20 underspin heads in there. And I literally looked and I was like, I don't know why these are in here. Yeah, I mean, dude, you and me could talk about this for 150 years. Is anything going to matter besides a minnow for 6 months out of the year? Which makes me like upset a little bit. But some form of minnow. I mean, dude, you look at just tackle in general. Like my boat for the wintertime was the least full I've ever had it. And literally it was like 7 different kinds of minnows. I just left the jig heads in the bags that they like what they came in from the retail deal, a box of A-rigs, a box of jerk baits. And that's like eventually what my boat just turned into. I had like 4 tackle boxes in my boat.
I mean, I guess if you don't want to outthink the room, but if everybody's throwing a chatterbait, just hitting him with a swim jig work. I mean, if everyone's throwing a minnow, do they get shell shocked to where it's like, yeah, it is worth going with a screw head or a spy bait or an underspin or something like that. But I get your point though. It's way more also efficient, I think, to do the minnow thing for a tournament than it is just chucking and winding. Yeah.
It just feels like this year, for some reason, it's just been so minnow heavy. So I hope that's not the case, dude. Like, for somebody that's on the water as much as I am, like obviously I like the variety and being able to, break it down and kind of do that. But yeah, the minnow deal just kind of creeps into your nightmares quickly. I don't hate it. I actually really enjoy it. I think it sucks to fish with 2 people doing the minnow deal. If you're both good at live scoping, then yeah, I get it. And you can change minnow sizes and stuff. But I mean, I think there was like 4 or 5 guys that fished the anglers alone. So like, if that tells you anything, I know some guys don't want to show spots and stuff, but like if it's a minnow bite and you're fishing for 10 grand and you're like, screw it, I'm just going to fish alone. Like then it's, it's like super offshore minnowy technology based fishing. So, yeah.
I agree with that. That's a good segue here with this question here. And while that question is being answered, guys, I'm going to open up the phone lines here. We get a phone. I don't even know how to say that name because apparently I can't read. So I'm just going to say
all hail Gobert. So this is actually a good segue. So exciting news for 2025 for me and my business. I got on with Megabass last year, and then I think we've talked about it before, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I've been with Dobbins Rods for a long time, but to dive into it a little bit and not bash too much, they got bought by a private equity firm, and it's, in my opinion, not going that great from what I'm experiencing. So worked out a deal with Megabass. So super excited that all guide clients are going to be throwing Megabass rods, which in my opinion is one of the highest quality rod makers out there. So, if it's a situation where somebody comes on the boat and I am not the cheapest, I want them to be able to throw really, really good rods. So Megabass hooked it up, and so everybody's going to be throwing Megabass rods in the boat. So to segue that, I just rigged them tonight. So I have not had a chance to go out and kind of play around with their spinning rods yet on what I think is the Megabass setup. What I would say in general, I have 2 minnow rod setups that I would want. One is a short rod, like a 6'11", 6'9", somewhere in that really short range with the 1/8 ounce head, something that if you have a fish, say, follow it all the way to the boat, you can hang right over the trolling motor with a short rod. And it's not a situation where you have a 7-4 or something stupid long where you're kind of like leaning over and trying to get that fish to bite. So I like a short rod for an 1/8 ounce. And then I like a 7.2 or a 7.4 for something where I can throw like a quarter or a 3/8 or even a 1/2 ounce Demiki head that I can just super get away from the boat and just kind of manage better with a longer rod. So longer rod, fast action. You want something really, really sensitive because a lot of these Demiki bites are not aggressive at all. Honestly, it's pretty impressive how anybody even felt these bites back in the day. It's honestly just like spongy weight. But a lot of the Demiki bites that are kind of like presentations that you have to do is dead sticking. So you kind of shake it to get their attention. If they're not super aggressive for it, you pendulum it down. They're staring at the bait. You're holding it dead still for 30 seconds, and then they swim up to it and just kind of gently kind of like add their weight to it. So that would be like my rod lengths, actions, 10-pound braid, 3,000 size reels. I think those size reels, my buddy Matt kind of talked to a buddy and put me onto this too, is like a 3,000 size reel is going to let line off the spool better. So Demiki, if you want something to get down there quick, going with a bigger reel size is going to let that line come off a little bit faster. And then I'm going anywhere from 6-pound line to like 10-pound line. I've been getting away with 10 the last couple of weeks because the water's got a little bit of stain, but if it's super, super clear, slight calm, and you're having a dead stick, then I would go down to 6. And then baits. I mean, you do not have to go spend money on crazy heads. You can throw a ball head that costs nothing, or you can go get tungsten heads that have eyeballs if you feel like that's something that might do it. I like the VMC Moon Eye head. I catch a lot of fish on that. If you're going up in size, like to a 3/0, the Z-Man makes a good minnow head. Really anything that just has the 90-degree tie is all you need. And then baits, the Mooch minnow did stupid good for some reason because Jacob Wheeler made it. So I guess everyone has to buy it. And then I throw some Kai-Tech minnow stuff. I mess with a few like Japanese baits, Sakamadas, zoomed flukes or winged flukes for some of the bigger bait stuff. So pretty straightforward. One tip I would say, and this is something that I do on the guide trips, I am huge on scent with Demiki fishing. And I think we talked about this last year too, Thomas. I soak my baits for days. Like if I have a tournament coming up, I'm putting baits in a plastic bag and just letting them kind of all soak together. So thump gel, smelly jelly. It doesn't have to be a herring deal. It can be like Bass Feast or something like that, but just some sort of like scent. I joke, like when I put my minnow in the water, I want it to look like oil slick, like petroleum leak, because if they are trailing it super slow or you have to dead stick it, I would rather have a bait that's like leaking scent into their face than just a Lastec plastic smell. So that's my minnow setup. And then one thing I will say for anybody who fishes a lot, my beat down mount is a lifesaver on my back. I look stupid as hell because it's like 3 feet tall. But it has saved my neck and back this year. So if you're a dude that's like, you know what, I'm so sick of looking down at a screen, then the beat down one is super helpful.
Yeah. And it's the way of the future with the minnows and everything. I don't know. I just feel like if everyone does it, do the fish get conditioned, and does that open up apparently some other possibilities? Like, again, I'm not poo-pooing like the minnow won't be an important thing. I have Will Nash here. And then guys, I'm going to hit the button here and open up the phone lines. The phone lines are Yep, the phone lines are now open, 667-307-8583. I'm going to give away 2 prizes to Jake's Bait and Tackle, 2 $10 gift cards to Jake's Bait and Tackle for people that call in, and then hell, that I'll give away 1 in the comment section down below. Will Nash says, at this time of year, after a long winter, I'm tired of staring at the damn screen. I'm praying for a shallow swim jig bite. Sadly, I agree the minnow bite will probably turn into a 6-month deal. Yeah, dude, that's... Yeah, I mean, maybe you're right. We got SB again. You got to give the Mega Mikea, whatever the hell that is, a shot, Billy, and the ARG minnow.
All right, let me
Why
look
did you do all these damn words, man?
No, A-Rig minnow.
Oh, A-Rig Mega. Okay, got it.
What is it? Mega what?
Hold on. Yeah, I'm just going to show it on the screen. I'm not going to try to pronounce this bitch. Oh, A-Rig. Yeah, you're right. There you go. I'm having a Joe Biden moment.
Oh.
My God.
Oh, weird. Huh. Is he talking about a worm? Here, I'll find it.
Let's go Mega Mikey 8.
Nothing comes up on Tackle Warehouse, but there was a worm that came up under yeah, that's what I found. SB's out here flicking a worm at him.
Yeah, pretty much. That makes sense.
No
He's
way.
on the water enough. He's finding out some weird stuff.
They're on that 11-inch floater worm.
You know what's another thing is all them hentai baits, man. Those things are deadly.
I mean, dude, I like throwing weird stuff. But then again, then you just end up coming back to a 3-inch minnow. So
yeah,
I'll have to find it. I'll hit SB up and see what the hell he's talking about.
They bite even tougher in coffee looking water. Nah,
Yeah.
that's true.
It has been tough up there. I've talked to Randy a little bit.
Let's see. I'm good. See if I can get this guy on. Hold on a second. This phone line all dialed in here, guys.
Hello?
Hey, this is Thomas with Fish in the DMV.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, boss. You are on the show.
Wait, hold on. What is it?
This is Fish in the DMV. You called in?
Hello? Oh, sorry. That was my uncle. I ain't there anymore. I'm sorry about this.
Oh, and then he just hung up.
Enjoy your pizza order, sir.
Yeah. And that's kind of the breaks, guys, when you do a call-in show. Call-in number is up still, 667-307-8583.
So, hey, I was going to say either that, yeah, the freeloader is a good deal. But I was looking at Al's comments because he came in with 2 giant ones. You can see he's talking about the shallow bite, but just the numbers aren't there. So good for him. I mean, dude, they had two super good fish. So that's what I'm saying is like, it's closer. It's like up and down. Like one day you'll be able to catch some shallow. And then it's like 3 days where they're just out. So
the hell is Al's comment? I'm trying to find it.
My 2 fish came in 4 feet of water Saturday, a 671 and a 5.5, and they lost 6 other shallow. Yeah.
Oops.
So, I mean, he's a hammer around here too. He catches a lot of big ones. Yeah, it's just, it's kind of the saying that I've kind of built into my head these last 2 seasons on Smith is like these fish swim, and it's getting to the point where whatever you find in practice, if the conditions are different the next day, you have to assume you cannot go back to fish like that. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up too from this past weekend, dude, is the stripers just took over everything shallow for most of the dudes that I talked to. So those stretch of docks that I had where I had all those mag draft bites, dude, we went back, there was like 50 stripers under these docks in 0 to 3 feet of water, like super not where they should be and transitionally how they're doing. And as soon as that happens on Smith, you're out. Like you have to leave that area. So it's a lot of that transition stuff. It's a lot of the, weather changes every day and stuff like that. So, but it's definitely been more roller coastery this year than the last couple.
All right, we got our first gift card giveaway here. Hunter Martin, you just want a gift card to Jake's Bait and Tackle. You can email me, fishingthedmv@gmail.com. You can reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook. How are you locating fish now? I've been getting bites, just can't find numbers.
Yep. So this is broken down. I don't know if I wrote it in this last fishing report, probably in a past spring fishing report is, I fish opposite in the spring. I run to the backs first and work my way out to the main lake. And then basically all you need to do, Hunter, is if you're catching small ones, you need to work back from where you are. So if you go all the way to the back of the creek and you're catching 14-inch bass, you know that that's the buck bass that are moving up. Is there a female back there? Probably. Is there a group of them? Probably not. You keep working your way back out from points to ditches, points to ditches, points to ditches till you get out to the main lake, and do that on enough of those creeks where you're catching buck bass, and you'll find where females are. And then from there, you can just kind of work back or work that around the lake. So if I run to the back of, say, like a long creek at the state park and I catch 3 10 to 15 inches on a jerk bait, I'm going to jump 2 points back, and all of a sudden I see 2 blobs that are on the break line. And right now they're either humongous stripers, like 20 pounders, or they're really, really big female bass. And the way that you can kind of tell the difference on live scope from that is the female bass are super lethargic. So you might have to throw something at them, and it's usually right now a jerk bait or a minnow, but you might have to throw a minnow at them 10 times before they even think about moving. And then all of a sudden they kind of start moving. They look a lot like carp, kind of blobs. Stripers right now, if you throw a swim bait or a jerk bait past them, they just go full psycho on it. And you know right away, like you can just reel your bait in. Those are stripers. The ones that you want to aim for are super lethargic. And then as far as like catching your tournament weight here, if you find 8 or 10 of those types of fish and that's the type of bite you want to go for, then just rotate those fish. It's just a timing thing, a light thing, might be a scent deal, going from a 3 to a 5, something different that triggers that lethargic female to bite. So that's the best way to break down the spring, is work back from where you find bucks.
I wonder why. Is it really just because we got conditioned because Bassmaster told us work out to end? Because now I'm thinking about my whole upbringing, and yeah, I think that's why.
Yeah, that's just how I've always done it that way in the spring. I don't know.
Oh,
it's warmer in the back of the pockets from that warming trend from a couple weeks ago. And especially this week, it's going to hold true too, because the main lake's not going to be slick. I mean, tomorrow morning, I think it's going to be slick calm till like 1. And then after that, it's supposed to blow every single day this week. So the main lake's not going to heat up like the back of the pockets will.
We got another great question here question for Billy. Let's see. Question for Billy. I'm fishing the March 29th tournament as a non-boater for the first time ever. What would you do in this position? 3 spinning rods, my friend. I would have a Cinco on, I would have a shaky head on, and I would have a swim bait on. And I would keep it pretty straightforward. I'd probably just do like a green worm on the shaky head for the Cinco. I'd probably go like a green pumpkin purple, something that's green pumpkin gold, maybe something that's slightly different than what a lot of dudes are throwing. And then for your swim bait, I would bring 1/8 and I would bring quarters, and I would bring 2.8 swim baits, and I would bring 3 swim baits. And then if your guy sticks you out on a point, kind of the countdown method to start, see if there's suspended fish out there. And then you're going to lose a lot of lures, but a really good technique here is actually like dragging one on the bottom. So maybe don't spend your money on tungsten heads or something, but, dragging a swim bait along the bottom of where your guy is fishing can be really good. Cinco's pretty straightforward. Any lay down wood piece you can find, stumps are going to start having fish on them. If you can get a good skip, like a good angle from your boater, then do that. And then a shaky head is just for you to be able to just kind of bomb around into open water. But I would keep it pretty simple. Depending on what the conditions are, if it's crazy windy on the 29th, then I would maybe bring something like an A-rig as a co-angler. Your boater is probably going to throw a swim bait, a crank, and a jerk bait. So I probably wouldn't worry too much about that, but maybe something,
an A-rig with bigger baits on it or smaller baits. Don't do like 4-inch, go like 5s and 6s or like 2s. And just kind of bomb that around and see if you can snipe something out from your boater.
Do you focus on more sunny banks this time of year, Shane Flynn Outdoors?
Yep, 100%. For example, I've got 9 days in a row of guiding, and then I think it's practice for the BFL. My first day of practice, I will only be checking what banks are getting the most sun all day long. So springtime, like keep it super straightforward. The banks that are protected from a north wind and the banks that get the most sun are going to have the most fish on them. That's not necessarily where the biggest ones are going to be, but that's where the first big push population of fish is going to be, are on those types of banks. And then again, you just do that same technique of, if you're running all those and you're catching 14 inches, then the females are on the break line out on the main lake. Or they're out suspended in the ditch. But yeah, that will be my first. That will be my first approach to practice for the BFL. Will be only those types of banks.
So west facing banks.
Yep.
Or is it east?
No, they'll be on the west.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yep. And then Smith Mountain's super easy to understand that the sun comes right over the mountain. So if you looked at a map and saw where the mountain was, basically just draw an arrow going northwest, and the sun is going to hit those banks. That's why Craddock Creek is a really good springtime creek. The majority of the creek on the left side going back is protected from the wind, and it gets a shit ton of sun. And then, you can kind of break it down from there, but that's a good starting spot for the spring is the sunlight.
Did we had the other thing on Instagram about glide baits. We already answered that, didn't we, about glide baits? I think we did.
Yeah. The one other thing that I would say to glide baits, it's probably not chop time. It's going to be more your slow glides, your big kind of S type glide fishing. So you could try chopping. I don't think it's warm enough and they're rocking and rolling on something like that yet.
What do you think the weights are going to be like at the event?
Well, it's a 2-day. So I would assume, well, let me ask you this before I answer. Do you think most people are going to fish both days just because they're there? Like, why would you not?
Yeah.
You're already there. You already have travel expenses. It's one more night. Like you Maryland guys drive 5 hours. You're not going to fish both tournaments.
It depends on the weather because example is last time it was raining so bad. It was a shit show. So.
Yeah, for sure. That was extreme.
I was so glad I got to drive up the freaking road.
Dude, I think I had a wedding that day. I was not about Dude, yeah, that's what's funny about just like being on the water all the time. Like, I love fishing. It's just in my veins, but I am 40 in a year and a half. And like, if it's pouring rain, do I really want to go out there and like do that? Or do I just want to wait till it passes? So, I'm going to say it's probably going to be 20 for both days based on watercolor, potential warming trend. And then if it is going to be dependent on weather. And again, this is just like where I'm just like, it's not that I'm not confident, but like, I don't know, if one day is sunny, bright, slick, calm, because these fish are acting so stupid, is that like a 24-pound bag day because you can go throw a shaky head and a Cinco around, even though the conditions are trash. And then the next day when it blows, it's only 17. That's like what I feel like could happen. But also I know better. So I would say 20s both days, even after the pressure, is probably likely. I'm hoping we get 2 different weather conditions. I hope it's not, a double windy blow fest kind of deal. I would love it if it was you had to adjust that much instead of somebody taking home both days.
What do you think a check cut is?
Well, the BFLs pay out to what, 150th?
Well, that's okay. Yeah, bad. You're right. Let's say top 20. What do you think 20th place is? 15?
Yeah, just probably 15 or 16.
All right.
Yeah, 15 or 16. Because I was trying to think. I think last year's BFL, I don't remember if I got 6th last year or the year before. That was early March. I think early March. I mean, we were minnow fishing then. So yeah, I mean, the other side to it is if we don't get any big rain events, like I think we're supposed to get a little bit of rain, but if we don't get any big rain events and they start actually pulling the water right, that upper stretch of the lake, if it goes from brown to green, might get pretty goofy. And I think that could maybe, that could play to some bigger bags, because whatever fish are up there, I know they're obviously eating because they have to eat. But those fish haven't been fished hard for a month.
Mm.
So if that water turns green, yeah, like, dude, I'm looking at the 10-day. We have one day that has a 45% chance of rain. So
That's crazy.
But this is what I'm talking about with the warming deal. Friday, Saturday, the lows are almost freezing. So that's not great either. So, 16 for a cut or a top 20, and then probably 20 pounds. And hard to say if it's going to fish small or not.
When we're talking about a multi-day tournament, I mean, it's not technically a multi-day tournament, but just so people can understand that a little bit more, do you approach it differently? If it was a 2-day or a 3-day event, do you practice all week, or do you just kind of just do one day and show up and figure it out as everything evolves?
I'll probably do one day of practice. Me personally, I would save fish. Like if it's a situation that you have good dock fish, for example, I'm a big believer, the guy that asked about the glide bait, of a glide bait's going to show you more than catch you fish. So if I only did one day out there, I would probably go chuck a glide around some docks, and kind of see what I can see. Because you can find very special docks in the spring at Smith Mountain that have 50 pounds on them. And those fish are just sitting there waiting for the next heat wave or whatever they are. So probably saving some fish over the 2 days. If it's a situation where, again, it blows and you can't really like position yourself that great on some of these things, then yeah, I think you just kind of go fishing for 2 days. But you should be able to find pretty good concentrations of bass this time of year coming up.
There you guys go. So those are your tactics for handling Smith Mountain Lake in a multi-day event. We're going to get through your guys' questions here before we wrap up, and then Billy's got some things to say. We got Mr. Harris here that says, a little late, but any smallmouth bite tips? Shouldn't they start spawning sooner than largemouth?
Yeah, they should be coming up here pretty quick. Lower end, so like anybody that reaches out like, hey, I really want to catch smallmouth, 80% of the smallmouth live on the lower end. So that right there makes it fish way, way smaller. There was a lot of smallmouth like 2-3 weeks ago that were very deep on the long points, like down at the dam and back in Witchers and Mountain View and stuff like that. But they were like 50 feet deep, just kind of glued to the bottom. Those fish, I would suspect, are going to be up here in the next like 10 days. Again, just going to biology, they have to come up at a certain point to start thinking about it. So you should see suspended smallmouth here in the next like 10 days. Craddock, Cool Branch, Bull Run, kind of Christmas Tree Island and below should be pretty good. One of my favorite ways to catch them this time of year is like a little jerk bait, like wacky colors. So like pinks, chartreuse, even in the super clear water, bright sunny day. If you can find some suspended ones, clown, like anything that's like super off the wall. This is that fun time of year to start playing with kind of the weird colors, would be kind of like a bait advice. And then from a approaching advice is I would start putting the boat in like 50 feet and just slowly work your way up the points and up the side of the points to see if there's any smallmouth up there. So they are going to come up first. They spawn first. They're in bad attitude territory now. So they're way easier to catch than kind of those lethargic largemouth that I was talking about.
Let's see. We got Hunter Martin again. What's your go-to jig head for minnows?
Yep. Said this earlier, Hunter. VMC Moon Eye is really good for like a 3-inch minnow. And then if you want to go up, Z-Man makes a good shaken minnow head. But if you do not want to spend the money to get one that's got like an eyeball on it or anything like that, just rolling, strolling jig, something from, owner Gamakatsu that's just a ball head is more than sufficient.
A couple more guys. I see an SB question. I will pass that class 327. I would ask Matt that on his Instagram, whether he's fishing that or not. I know he's a busy man. We got Cooper Aaron in the chat. What up? Hey boss, I'm gonna have to be getting you back on now. You got your service going, dude. So little protege thing there. Here we go. We got one.
Ooh.
Better to go catch a limit first than pull out big baits or grind big baits for the first 3/4 of the day, knowing how to get a quick limit.
What a tournament question. I'm a limit guy. I would rather go catch 5 for 14 pounds and have 6 hours to go sling a big bait than blow through 4 hours and get a bite and miss it. And then just be scrambly the rest of the day. The only time I would say where that is okay is if they're like on a good crankbait or big swim bait bite and being able to just cover water, because there's just keep going. But if you have, say, tougher conditions on the horizon type stuff, I would mentally, as a tournament angler, and the times that I've always done really good has been go put 14 to 16 in the boat. Even if it only gives you 2.5 hours on the tail end to throw big stuff, there's enough big fish at Smith Mountain to be able to get a big bite, especially in like March, April. If you put a big bait in your hand for 4 hours a day, you're going to get a big bite. Some days you're going to get 7 big bites. Most days you're going to get 2 to 3. That's how I would approach it. And then also for like a BFL type situation, unless I was on something stupid and like they were eating it super good, I would try to go catch a limit first and then rock from there. But I know that's not everybody's deal, and a lot of my buddies would probably like slap me in the face for saying that.
If you're not first or last.
Yeah. If you're not first or last, then just go do it. But I think everybody can agree you fish better when you have 5 in the boat, and you just can take a quick breath and kind of recalibrate.
You never have a guarantee that you're going to be able to catch a kicker. So,
No.
All right, we got Paul here. We got 2 more guys before we're going to finish this thing. Here it is. Do you prefer the jig head with eyes?
I do if the bait does not have eyes. So I'm not a big 4-eye guy. I think it's weird. Like on some deals, I'll even take a Sharpie, and like if it's a head that has eyes and then the bait has eyes, I'll just make the eyes on the lure be a hit spot. But I prefer them to have eyes. I think if they're staring at it and there's some, glass eye staring back at them, I think maybe that gives them a little bit more of that realism look.
There you have it, guys. And then let's see, class 327. Yeah, he is fishing them this year. Probably losing to McCluskey the whole time. Having a limit in the box just puts your mind at ease 100%. We got that question done there. Perfect. I got another question here on Instagram. Billy, what is your favorite time to fish Smith Mountain Lake?
I've said this to you many, many times. Late October through December is when we get on the best crankbait bite at the lake. So anytime I can go out there when the water temp dips below 58, between 58 dropping down to 50 on crazy windy days in the fall, like hurricane winds, is the best days in my opinion. It's the best time to throw rock crawler, wart, Z2, and just cover water. You don't have to look at live scope. You're wearing your life jacket. We call it man shit. Like when most of me and the buddies go do it, because you're definitely boats, waves are coming over the front of the boat type stuff. But that's when you're really going to have a good chance at cracking a giant one on a crankbait.
How did you get a passion for crankbaits living at Smith?
Dude, I threw a wiggle wart in Minnesota a bunch just because it's it's a staple, Midwest type bait, Lake of the Ozarks and just kind of that stuff. I threw on the Mississippi River all the time. So, I came from a little bit of that kind of wart country, but I think it's the best way to cover water. I think it's worth checking almost every single day. And at this point, going back to what I said at the beginning, who knows what these F1s have on their brain. I'm probably going to start throwing a crankbait when it's glass calm and the water's 10 foot clear, because some days they are doing stuff that doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm good at it. I like the kind of science behind a crankbait with like angle deflection and color change, line size, like speed, real speed, all that sort of stuff. Like I like the really kind of nuanced stuff with crankbait fishing that can trigger bites.
So the last thing I really wanted to ask you was the department came out with their list of some of the best lakes to catch number and size. Leesville was in I think the top 10 based on their shocking surveys.
Yeah.
Have you ever fished that place before? Like, what the hell is with that place?
My mobile mechanic buddy AJ was just here. He caught a 7-pounder crappie fishing 2 days ago in Leesville.
Good Lord.
He said he was crappie fishing, throwing a little minnow around, and then literally turned the live scope, and he's like, there was just this weird blend like in the channel swing. He's like, he flicked it over there, and it was a 7-pounder. I have been there 3 times, once for practice and for 2 tournaments. The day I went for practice, I left like right at low light, like not unsafe, but like, okay, super low, ran down the lake. And as soon as the sun came up, I realized that I went full throttle through full-size tree laydowns, coming down the middle of the lake, debris everywhere. Like, I'm so surprised I didn't ruin my lower unit. So the 2 tournaments that I've been there, I have launched at the ramp and I have literally got on the trolling motor and been like, I'm not leaving here until I can see everything that's in the water. There's so much debris in that lake. These dudes are insane that literally just go launch and just roll. So it fluctuates a ton, which is good and bad. I mean, depending on what day you end up being there, it's going to create eddies. I mean, it's more river fishing, bluff wall type stuff than anything. There's not really like back pockets and stuff. All the docks are floaters. It's a super interesting place. It's not very big. I could see where it has a good population. I don't think it really gets fished that hard.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is there anyone that you usually that talks about it, just chatter and dock talk? It seems like no one fishes it.
So Coop just went there, I think, but I think he was crappie fishing too, maybe bass fishing. There's a small tournament trail that goes out of there. I don't know if it's a club deal, but I mean, we're talking maybe 14 boat type situation. I know the ones that I fished. Yeah, I could see that. The ones that I fished, like, yeah, it was like 9 boats and like 14 boats. So, I mean, it doesn't have the pressure that any of the other lakes that were on that list has, but yeah, I could see it being higher up there. It's got a bunch of walleyes in there, which is awesome.
That'd be fun.
And yeah, that would be super fun to go kind of check out. But it's kind of weird to get to too from my house. And I know you haven't been to my house before, but like, I'm pretty sure Leesville's like 45 minutes because I have to go up over the mountain and like, but the lake's like right here. So I just really don't go just because it's such a weird like drive to get to the ramp. So maybe worth some more time, but I'm not really big on heading to spots where I can rip my lower off because of guiding, dude. If my boat's incognito or not incognito, if my boat's out, I'm not making any money.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes way too long to get stuff done on boats. So
interesting. Yeah, no, that's really cool. Maybe it's because of all that keeps it kind of under pressured, which
yeah.
is
where did Phil Pot end up?
Yeah, it was in the top 10, I think. Let me hold on. It's
dude, I've been seeing some pretty big ones come out of Phil Pot actually. Which is interesting. Wow. That's a cool little lake. It's like a very small Smith Mountain, very, very small Smith Mountain.
What's crazy about that too, I mean, this is a whole other thing that goes down a rabbit hole, is that place is almost as big as Occoquan Reservoir, but that place you can have a 300 horsepower and go bananas, and Occoquan Reservoir, you have to have a 9.9. Like, yeah. It doesn't make any sense, these rules on the motor restrictions depending on the size. It makes no sense at all. But that's Virginia for you, and that's the government, not being able to make any good decisions here. Guys, as soon as I find that report again, I know I just did a show on it, and I should have an eidetic memory, but it's on there. If you guys in the comment section remember where Phil was, but Philpott did end up on the top, which was interesting. I think the top 3 lakes, though, were sub 1,000 acres. I think it was like Briery Creek, Leesville, and something else that was, and Occoquan Reservoir, of course, was number 1.
Yeah, of course.
So interesting stuff there.
You want an insight into parenting life? I just got a text message with my wife and mother-in-law who's here that says, I can't put this kid to bed. She smells like ketchup.
Interesting flavor.
Double bath kind of night.
Oh, it sounds like it. So what do you have coming up?
So BFL is coming up. Guiding is kicking off, going hardcore. And I appreciate you bringing that up because we can jump to the website here in a second, but, Guiding's kicking off like crazy. Really excited about this whole Mega Bass deal because I really, really like, one of the things that I've brought up to you before is the reason I started my guide business is I wanted to help people catch more fish. Number one, I didn't want to be a crotchety old guide, which is the experience I have had with a lot of guides. And then have paying to go out on these guide trips and just kind of crappy gear, hodgepodge stuff together. So I'm really proud and excited that hey, when you come out with me, we're using top of the line stuff. So it's the experience of learning from me, getting to be kind of out on Smith Mountain and seeing the beauty of that, but also using, kind of that higher end stuff. So that's a big deal for 2025. Guiding's wide open, dude. I have 9 or 10 in a row, right now. And then as soon as the BFL is done, I think I got another 9 or 10 in a row. So if you're trying to get down here, whether that's for vacation or to hunt a big one and stuff like that, reach out sooner rather than later. And then a big thing on the website for this year is an automatic subscription to the fishing report and some hot bait emails that I'm going to be sending out and trying to be a little bit more active with the community as far as, what people can learn about Smith Mountain, what people can kind of learn on what baits might be working and kind of maybe little sneaky stuff here and there. I'm a big sharer, dude. I don't really hold anything tight to the chest because these fish change constantly. And there really isn't some super magic lure that's going to do it. So, I appreciate you pulling it up for anybody that's actually watching, but if you jump to my website now, you can sign up, subscribe to the fishing report. I'll send one out a month. Has links to the baits that we're using, some color stuff like that. And then, like I said, I'll probably send out every couple weeks or every 3 weeks, a hot bait list or what I would be, anticipating the bite to be at Smith Mountain and a lot of the lakes around here. So
there you have it. Now, do you know off the top of your head your next availability for a guide?
I can tell you in a second here, sir.
So by doing that, we got another question on Instagram. Thomas, are you ever going to fish the BFLs again? I don't know because I hate them. I don't like having a co-angler, honestly, and I fished 2 tournaments alone, and I did really good. I listened to 2 of them were in the fall. I listened to football. I had everything spread out, and I was relaxed, and I won one and did really well in the other one. I realized I just hate people, apparently, in the boat. So
that can be a thing, dude. I have March 31st, April 1st, and then April 9th. Every other day is guiding.
All right, so first available date, guys, is Monday, March 31st. So if you'd like to get out of there after that place was beat to shit for 7 days,
that's fine.
Go on out there.
Yeah, maybe give it a day or two. Hit me up second week of April. They should be pretty good. So it'll be interesting to see, dude. It'll be interesting to see 2 days of pounding tournament release fish in Parkway and how that moves fish around. So.
All right, guys, I'll get this last one on Instagram. If I want to do a guided trip with you to catch my PB bedding fish, what would be the best time to go?
Late April before May 20th. You'd want to come before that time.
There you guys have it. So guys, go check them out. As always, link in the episode description to everything that we talked about here today. If you'd like to, guys, you could also go check me out on Patreon. We only have 10 more spots available before I shut that completely down for the rest of the year. It'll be back up next year, but it'll be at a higher rate. You get it completely booked in. I back every single tournament, and then we get all, of course, massive discounts. So go check that out. Like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing in DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle.